Welcome to Beyond the Shelf. I'm Dawn. Unfortunately, Jenny was not able to join me for this episode. I was able to interview 10 or 11 authors at our local author festival back in March, and it was a great time. I hope that you were able to join us there. Let's jump right into those interviews. Hello, this is Dawn Ake. Is that right? Awesome.
Pronounced just like a pain.
Just like the pain in your back.
Yes.
Sure. Awesome. And are you originally from Northeast Ohio or?
Yes, I grew up in Akron.
Okay.
And right now I live in northern Stark County.
So you write some humor books, but is it more like humor about life, or tell us a little bit about it?
It's short essay humor, and it's about the more common things in life. When I wrote my first book, I was having trouble explaining what it was about to people. And some of the early readers came back, more than one said, Don, this book reminds me of Seinfeld, because you're not writing about anything significant, but it's still very funny.
It's just kind of like everyday things.
Just kind of observational stuff that happens. I mean, my first book, called Just Make Me a Sandwich, is, that essay in there is about, in the relationship, in a marriage relationship or a couple relationship, you have to figure out who's making the sandwiches in that relationship. And what's interesting is that, that's funny, but it's true. That's one of the things in a functioning, working relationship that needs to be decided between the couple, and couples decide it differently.
Sure.
And so that essay, the reason that it's funny, it's about people telling me whether my wife should make me sandwiches or not, and imposing that onto me and my reaction to it. So it's everyday common stuff that comes up.
That's great. So what got you into writing?
I started writing. I wrote a humor column my senior year of high school, and then I wrote a very popular humor column at the University of Akron that came out weekly. And so everyone thought that I would go into writing after I graduated, but I had a business degree. So I went into business, and I kept writing stuff over the years. But then it was sometime around 2011, I started humor blogging.
Blogging.
And so, it was something new for me.
Sure.
And so I started doing a humor blog called Aches Pains, same title as my column in college. So I say that I took just a brief 32-year break from
just a short sabbatical.
Writing, just short.
Yeah.
But because it comes natural to me, I picked it back up very quickly.
Okay.
And the blog was very popular. And so when I had enough blog posts and enough readership, I put those posts into a book.
Did you find a lot of crossover between being a columnist versus blogging? Is it pretty similar?
What I do with the blog, I write very conversational.
Sure.
It's like I'm talking to you. It's not actually always grammatically correct.
Sure, yeah.
I reserve the right to make up my own words if I don't have a word that fits what I'm talking about. That makes it interesting when you're doing a book, because your editor, you're going back and forth with your editor, like, well, this isn't grammatically correct. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but if you were talking to somebody, this is how you would say it.
Sure. So are you a big reader then? Do you read much, or are you just focused on writing and other things?
I am so busy that I do not read enough. But I do read for relaxation a lot of times when I go on vacation. And so there I tend to read kind of not into history books about the American Revolution.
Okay.
The book that I'm reading and I'm still in is a biography about John Hancock.
Okay.
And it's just someone that you've heard about a lot, but you just didn't realize just how important he was.
Great. So if folks are interested in finding your books, where can they go?
All my books, you can get signed copies.
Today, right here.
Yes, you can today here. If you don't get one today here, if you order from my website, which is DONAKE, the number 1.com, donake1.com, I will personally sign the book for you. Okay. But they're available on Amazon and all the major online retailers. Okay. You can get my books. And my fourth book is called Deep Heavy Stuff, different than the first three in that it's short essay, because that's my writing style. Deep Heavy Stuff is about helping you cope and helping you deal with some of the more challenging things in life. So it's a book to make you think rather than a book to make you laugh.
So it's a little bit different than what you've done before.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, this is, you go by Jim?
Jim right.
Duffy.
Yeah.
Okay. I was amused that you started your biography that you sent us off with the story about baseball and how did you break your leg or just injured?
No, it was pretty severely injured. I had a hematoma on my leg about the size of a baseball.
Oh, that might make sense.
Yes.
All right. And in a roundabout way, baseball got you into music and that got you into writing?
Yes. I had been working as a floor mopper and soda jerk at a local pharmacy. And I had some money saved up, and the doctor told me, because of my leg, he said, you need to keep it elevated, and you're probably going to be out of commission for a month. Okay.
Which for a young kid is
that was terrible, sitting on a chair for a month, right? So I told my mom, go down to the music shop that was across the street from where I worked, and buy me a guitar. I want to learn to play guitar. Well, I eventually took lessons and eventually got in bands, and I had some musical background before that because I played trumpet from the time I was in fourth grade.
Okay.
But anyhow, I got into a band and paid my way through college and graduate school with the money I made off the band.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But in the course of that, I had two professors that were big storytellers. The one guy called me in one day. I was in the history office. He was in graduate school at that point. His name was Hugh Earnhardt. And he called me in and he says, hey, Duffy, come on in here. He says, I want to talk to you. I got a deal for you. So he says, we got these 10 years of magazines that were post-Civil War, written by people who were in the Confederate Army. And he says, we have no way to use this for research because we don't have an index. If you'd read all these 10 years worth of magazines, monthly magazines, and create an index, I'll give you an A for the class. And I said, how do you turn a deal like that down? I don't have to write a paper. And it took a long time to do it, but I ran across so many things that, you don't read in a history book and don't even make it into a history class for the most part. And so my first book was based on a lot of stuff I was reading about this fellow, John Yates Bell. And he was trying to break prisoners out of Johnson's Island prison up here near Sandusky. So anyhow, when I decided to start writing this as a book, because somebody said, well, you've been collecting all this stuff. What are you going to do with it? And I said, well, why don't you write a book?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I never thought about it, but I guess I could. And about 3-4 years later, with lots of miles on my car from going to Canada and going to Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia, I was gathered enough extra material to write about this Confederate attempt to break prisoners out of Johnson's Island.
And that was your first book?
That's the first book.
And how many books do you have now?
I have 3 now.
Okay.
The last 2, I call them my collection. Because every time I come across some interesting or weird story that I'd never heard before, and believe me, I've studied a lot of history, so not a lot I haven't heard something about. But I write down these little stories. And then my wife said a few years ago, she said, why don't you put all these stories into a book? And a friend of mine who I taught high school with, I talked to him about it, and he says, yeah. He says, I said, how should I organize it and all that? And he says, no, just do them randomly. They all stand alone. Okay. And so that's how the last 2 books came out. You read a little story, a paragraph or so long, tells you something you probably never heard before.
That's great.
Easy to read, fun to read, you know.
Have you always been a reader, or is it sometimes some writers have said, I don't read a lot when I write.
I do, but I have to confess. Mm-hmm. I read so much history during the time that I was actively teaching because I knew there was always more to know.
Sure.
Now that I'm retired, I read mystery novels.
No, that's perfect.
So I've read, I'll brag a little bit, I've read over 50 Robert B. Parker books.
Okay.
He's got several different characters in the stories.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and talking a little bit about your writing.
Well, I'm glad to do it. Anytime you want me back, I'll be glad to come back and talk your ear off.
Can you tell me, do you have a social media or a website where people can find you?
Yes. My website is Ryan Hall Publishing. That's RION, Hall Publishing.
Great.
So,
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to welcome Irv Corman. Do you go by Irv?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is it only your mom calls you Irving?
No, she calls me late for supper. Yeah.
But you've gotten to do some pretty interesting things.
I've been very lucky. Yeah. I admit it.
So you've spent some time in the entertainment industry?
Yes. I did local community theater in the Akron, Ohio area. I did one summer in Cape Cod at Priscilla Beach Theater, 10 shows in 10 weeks. Carousel Dinner Theater, which was located in Ravenna at the time, I spent a month with Mickey Rooney in their production of See How They Run.
My experience with Mickey Rooney is from Disney's Pete's Dragon.
Yes.
That's where I know him from.
And then and then he did the Black Stallion also. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the books. My first two books were star interviews with people appearing in Northeastern Ohio. And I have a whole chapter with Mickey. Okay. Because you spend a month with him.
Did you act or were you staged? You were an actor. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
I was very lucky. Yeah.
So how did going from theater, and you also did like interviews and things like that, turn into writing books?
Well, my first two books were a result of the interviews I had. The first two books have 25 interviews in each book. And a friend of mine went to a book writing thing in Columbus, and there were publishers there. And he said to the publisher, I have a friend who interviewed famous people. You might want to check out his books. So I got his card, and I only had about 12 or 15 at the time, and I showed it to my one daughter, and she said, Dad, you don't have enough. So I added, the people I had interviewed had since passed away. Okay. But there were four, so I added four people that were still alive in their 80s. There was Phyllis Diller, Bob Feller, the baseball player, Mickey Rooney, and Tony Bennett. So I added those. And in the meantime, Eddie Fisher, the crooner, passed away, and Mary of Peter, Paul, and Mary passed away. So I had 25, which was good. So I have a file of reject letters. I did that, and I get a phone call one day, and he said, Mr. Corman? I said, yes. He said, my name is James. I have Local Neo Publishing. I think there's a market for your book. And I went, really? Because I've gotten the phone calls and the mass communication letters that, dear so-and-so, we're sorry, but blah, blah, blah. So he said, can I come over and have you sign a contract? I went, yeah. And that was the start with my first publisher.
So those are nonfiction, and then some of the other ones that you have are picture books?
Yes. Well, after that, I did two books. I was also a speech pathologist in the Akron School for 30 years, schools. And when a child said something cute, I would say, excuse me, and I'd write it down in the back of my lesson plan book. And that produced my next two books. Antoine was here, H-E-A-R, and Antoine is still here. I was supposed to interview Captain Kangaroo. And so during my lunch hour, because I was between schools at the time, and I told the PR lady my morning school phone number. She got it mixed up thinking I was supposed to call him from there. So she called the school. So all over the entire building, Mr. Corman, would you come to the office? Captain Kangaroo is on the phone. So every time you went to Finley, yeah, were you the guy? Yeah, I was the guy. So I talked to the person, and while I was talking to the person, my next group came, and I wasn't there. So Antoine left a note, said Antoine was here, but it was spelled Hear.
Okay.
So that's how I got the title. And then I had so much fun, and I had so many quotes left over, my publisher let me do Antoine is Still Here. Yeah. And the other ones are children's books that are fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the titles are plays on actors and
Well, most of, Claudette Colbert is Claudette Colbert, who was an actress in the 30s and 40s, and a book about a little boy named Andy whose room is a mess. It was called A Mess and Andy, and that's how I got the title, because of the puns.
So if folks are interested in finding your books, where would they go?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, their websites. I have a website at www.irvkorman.com. I believe Walmart carries some of them online. What's the other place? Barnes & Noble, and there's another one that took over the Borders stores. I'll think of it eventually.
Books A Million?
Books A Million.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm glad
the
you're here.
bookstore names.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Don Drum Art Studio in Akron, by the Akron U campus, carries my books. They have a children's room, and the Learned Owl Bookshop in Hudson carries them also.
Okay. So
And
there's a few places about.
And I always have some in the trunk of my car.
Yeah, so if they just run into you by chance.
Hopefully they're not driving. Yes.
Yes. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Well,
today.
thank you for for having me.
All right. With me now is, do you go by Jack or John?
It's so much Jack now that it's probably Jack.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jack Christofko.
That's exactly right.
Correct. Awesome. I pronounced it how it looked. So.
When people puzzle over it, I say just take a look at it and do it slowly, and it'll come out.
And it'll come out.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
So you used to be the dean at Wayne College. All
From
right.
1997 to 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that's just across town here
Just
from
down the road.
us.
Yeah.
Very good. Were you writing before then or while you were dean there?
Yes, in fact, when I came, in order to take the position of dean, they have to find you tenurable. You have to sit for tenure review. And so at that time, I had probably 40 titles published, not titles, individual poems and a handful of short stories published. 39 or 40 of them, and that was in 97. When I retired in 2011, I had over 500 poems published. So I did a lot of writing while I was at Wayne, in part because I was also teaching the Intro to Poetry course, and then the Poetry Writing course, Intro to Fiction, and the Fiction Writing course. And so that really accelerated I've always been interested in writing, I mean, ever since I was a kid. So I would say my time at Wayne accelerated and increased the time I spent writing. And since I retired, I'm doing even more.
Even more so. Great. So you said you've been writing like ever since you were a kid.
Yeah.
Was it always poetry or
It was
some
poetry at first.
Okay.
A background story. I think in the stuff that you sent out, there was a note about did you have an event when you were that caused you to start writing. My father and mother met in 1933. In 1934, he bought her an anthology, a red leather-bound poetry anthology, and it was always on a shelf, someplace visible in the house. And I was probably 10 or 11, maybe let's say 10-ish, when I picked it up and started looking at it, because my mother used to read from it. And so in 6th grade, I turned in a collection of poems to my English teacher called Early Dawn. So I can tell you that in one way or another, I've been writing since 10 years old.
That's great. Okay. And have you written a novel recently,
Yeah,
or
I
have you
have.
had one?
I have a collection of short stories came out a few years ago, but the novel just came out in November, 1962, SOS 1962. Been doing some work behind and promoting it and stuff.
Sure,
It just did
sure.
come out, yeah.
So do you run the Orchard Street Press as well?
I'm associated with, there's a
Okay.
group of people
A
who do
group.
Orchard Street, excuse me.
Okay.
And I do a lot of editing with them.
Okay.
I edit and judge in their annual poetry contest, which is going on right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
So, yeah.
That's exciting. Very good. So have you always been in Northeast Ohio, or did you migrate?
Born and raised in Cleveland, so was my wife. And in 70, so we were there until 77, and we moved to Springfield where I was at Clark State College for 20 years, and then came to Wayne, and then we moved back to Cleveland because Cleveland's always been our compass point. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cleveland is an interesting city.
It's a great city.
There's so much happening there all the time.
Absolutely is. Yeah. In fact, when we moved back in 2012, well, we've had season tickets with the Browns since '99. We bought a season ticket package with the Indians in 2012. We are subscribers to the orchestra. We go to the Broadway series.
Okay.
If you can do it in Cleveland, we're trying to do it. Yeah.
My husband and I just got memberships to the art museum this year.
Yeah, it's a fabulous place.
Yeah. It's been fun to go and see just things you wouldn't otherwise.
They have some great special programs and special shows and stuff.
Do.
Yeah, we're up there all the time.
Great.
Yeah.
To wrap up here, I just would like to ask you what you're reading right now, or what kind of things you enjoy reading.
I saw that as a question. I'm rereading The Things They Carry, O'Brien's stuff about his experience in Vietnam. I've read that a couple times.
Okay.
That was one of the stories I always included in my short story class at Wayne because it's such a good story. So I'm rereading that. But I'm also reading Ann Cleeves and Colin Dexter, the people who write for the British Mysteries shows on TV, which we watch like crazy.
Sure, yeah.
So and Ann Cleeves, Shetland, plays shows like that.
Yeah.
So I think, as much as anything, I've been reading some of that lately.
Nice, very good. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right, so I have with me Brad Rice. Brad, you are Northeast Ohio native.
Yes.
Awesome. You had one picture book?
Yes, I just published it last year, so I'm a newbie.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's exciting. So you are a painter.
Yes.
So you did all the artwork for your book.
Yeah.
It's about a mouse, right?
Yes. Irpin is a mouse, and Irpin is named after a city in Ukraine because the story kind of talks about migrating away from the war in Ukraine. And it's a small little mouse family of 5 that live in a wall in a house in Ukraine. And then one day, bombs start falling. It's a difficult subject for children, but I think of it as kind of a book for all ages, but it's gentle. So if children were to read it, it's a gentle introduction to some of the difficulties in our world.
Well, that's one of the great aspects of literature is we can use it to understand what's going on around us.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are a web developer, and I was literally looking at this company that you work for, and I was like, okay, is this a cool job?
Yes. Well, what I do is I manage a mobile app.
Okay.
Basically, a mobile app and a web app.
Okay. And then I get to see your work.
Yes.
Do you find any crossover between that web developing and your painting or writing?
Oh, sure. That's how I got into it to begin with. I was a graphic artist, and I had an interest in. Well, I could see web development coming as a big thing, and I knew, I just had this intuition. Oh, this is important. This is going to be big. So I tried to learn it and taught myself how to code. So
wow.
It started off with just kind of making JPEGs and things like that for the website, as a graphic artist. But then I'm like, well, how do you put these things together and make it into more than just the image, and how do you navigate through it and things like that? So, yeah.
And then that translated to, what if I made a picture book?
No, I think the picture book came because I was laying in bed the morning that the war started, and I had a kind of a habit of turning on the news in the morning. I don't do that so much anymore because it's so bleak all the time. But this morning I had it on, and they were like, well, Russia just entered Ukraine, and I'm seeing all these pictures of bombs falling and tanks coming across the border and this really bad stuff going on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And it was within the week that I had conceived this idea in my mind within the first week of the war that what would it be like if you were living there and all this stuff was happening and you had to get out, because there were people trying to get out of the city and stuff.
So you also are a member of the Medina County Art League.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have about 130 members. Mm-hmm. We have quite a lot of very good artists in the Art League. I'm the treasurer, so I kind of look after the books, but yeah, there's a lot of mentors there for me too. I learn a lot from other people there. So,
And then at your table, you were telling me you have some print from the book.
Yes, I do printmaking too, and it just seemed logical to me. Well, actually, the prints kind of came at the beginning before the book because I was experimenting with the different drawings, and I was like, oh, that looks like that would make a nice print, you know. So I'm drawing them in ink, but then I'm thinking about, well, could I make this into a print? And I do it by, so intaglio, you have like a substrate on top of the copper plate, and you take a scribe and you draw it into that substrate, and then you put it down in an acid bath, and it like etches the lines down into the plate. Then you cover that with ink, and you scrape the ink back away so that the ink's just down in the grooves of the plate, and then you run it through a press, and it comes out looking like an ink drawing.
But then you get your drawing done a little bit faster.
Well, you can make multiples.
Sure.
Is the idea.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time today to talk with me. The one question that we do like to ask everybody that we talk to is, what are you currently reading, or what do you enjoy reading?
No, I love that question, and I thought about that because currently, right now, I'm reading Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm reading The Complete Works, which is taking me, months. I mean, he wrote short things because he wrote for magazines, so they're short. But he was just so amazing. He was an amazing writer. And my next painting is going to be a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm working on that. So I try to do these paintings of iconic people, and he's going to be next on my list.
Can you tell me your website?
BradRice.com. Okay. Very simple.
All right, and it's spelled just like it sounds.
Yeah, BRADRICE.com.
Awesome, great.
Thanks so much, Dawn.
Thank you. I now have Sarah with me, and your pen name is S.E. Rude?
It is.
Correct, awesome. I always love when I say the names right, because some authors have some interesting names.
They really do. I feel like I butcher them on a daily basis.
You've been in Ohio your whole life. Northeast Ohio?
Northeast Ohio.
Okay.
So I grew up in Worcester. Now I live in Orville, so I didn't go very far. So yes, so you
That's all right. All right. It's a beautiful place to live, though.
It really is. And I like that it's a little bit quieter. I know that we're wanting to build eventually, so we'll probably go a little bit out of town, but I mean close.
Close, yeah.
Yes.
Very good. So have you always been a writer or a reader?
So reading actually came much later. So writing, yes. So journaling, poems, things like that. I took a creative writing class in high school. I also took a college writing class in high school. I have always loved writing, but really I didn't start until a few years ago writing stories and knocked a couple novels out as I guess exercises, and then I didn't start publishing until last year, and that's where it really took off, and I discovered that I just loved it, and then the reading came around the same time, so I've always read, but not as consistently as I do now.
So what are you writing? What's your genre?
So genre is inspirational romance, suspense. I am leaning into a little bit more of the darker romance, so serial killer, thriller type of novels. So that's the book that I'm working on now, but everything else has been more inspirational romance.
Okay, very good. Yes. Do you read that genre as well?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I also read Stephen King, Karen Slaughter, so a little bit of the horror as well. I love that. I know my husband also likes Clive Barker, and then my daughter also loves the classics, so Wuthering Heights, all those. So
great.
Yes.
It sounds like you kind of read what you also write.
Correct.
Okay. So there's some folks who, if they're writing history, they like to read mysteries or something else to be something and take a break, but if that's what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a live-in dream at my home. So, I mean, being with my husband, that's where all the inspiration comes from. So, yes.
That's so sweet.
It really is. It really is.
I have to ask, you have 4 rescue dogs. Did you adopt them?
We did. Aww. We did. So one of them isn't a rescue. We bought him traditionally. He's a purebred healer, but then I have all of the other 3 are rescues. It's something that we feel very, very passionate about, our 4-legged friends.
Yes.
We also have a cat that we inherited from my daughter, so it is a furry household, definitely. But we love them. I know that the oldest one that we have, she actually just went through some melanoma treatments. But yes, it is quite the journey having them all, and we love them so, so much.
Do you incorporate any animals into
Always.
your stories too?
Always. And cooking.
Yeah. And cooking?
And cooking.
So it's all your passions.
Yes.
Great.
So yes, there's a little piece of me in every book. In every book.
Fantastic.
Yes.
It's not a genre that I typically read, but if you were to try to draw in a reader who doesn't usually read like a romance or an inspirational story, what would you share about yours that you think?
So I also try to cover issues that everyone has gone through. So I think it's safe to say in your life of dating, you've had one that kind of sticks out. You're like, that one was really bad.
That was the bad one.
That was the bad one.
You don't even have. You can look at your friend and they're like, I know who you mean.
Yes, exactly. So talking about trauma, or even growing up in a bad household, or and not that everyone's gone through this, but overcome. I always want people to overcome, what the loss that they've had. Whether they had, a loved one die, or they grew up in an abusive household, or they've had a toxic relationship. So I always want to give people hope at the end of the tunnel. So those are always things that I try to incorporate in my books. So if you like that kind of thing, that would be what would draw you in, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I had some romance authors who say that their readers like to have the end wrapped up in a bow. Do you do that? Or do you like to leave a little room for the reader to kind of come up with the ending?
I like to tie up all loose ends.
You like to tie them
I
up,
do,
okay?
because I know in movies where they kind of leave you guessing if that's what really happened. I don't like that myself, so I don't want to leave my readers
so they get
wondering.
a happily ever after.
Yes, I do like the happily ever after. And then there is a couple of my books where it's not necessarily not a happily ever after, but there's some sad things that happen in there because that is life. Everybody's life isn't just perfect from, day one. So you want it to be as real as possible.
Sure. Very good.
Yes.
So if folks are looking for your books, where can they find you?
So www.sarahelizabethrood.com. That is my website. And then I'm on all socials as well. So TikTok and Instagram, all the things.
All the things. And is Sarah with an H?
Sarah is with an H.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
It is.
All right. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I am doing pretty good this afternoon. How are you?
Great. Good, having a fun time.
Is
it
it
afternoon? I was just going to ask, yeah.
It is about to be in a few minutes. So this is Steven Schneider.
Yes.
You write under S.A. Schneider.
Yes.
Is it Schneider?
Schneider, the German.
The
Yep.
German pronunciation. Okay. This is a very German area, Northeast Ohio in
Yes.
general. Are you originally from this area?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Portage County. I live a mile from the school I went to. 2 miles, actually.
From the elementary or high school or both?
Both. They're right next to each other.
Okay. So definitely sticking around home. Was it at school where you started an interest in writing, or how did you?
Absolutely not.
No.
It wasn't until I was much older. So
Okay.
for everyone out there listening that says, I'm too old, nope, not too old. I was a Girl Scout leader with a high school friend, and our girls were in the troop. And I noticed they all read. They loved to read. They come in carrying big books and reading them. But almost every single one of them had a male protagonist at the time. And this was 15 years ago or so. And I said, these girls need something to read that's girls, women in that.
Yeah.
Well, between my thinking that and actually starting to do it, everybody else had the same thought. And there are so many books now for girls out there and that, which is great. I love it. And the funny thing was, the first series I worked on was a girl protagonist, but it was horrible. Early writer, I didn't realize how bad I was until my editor let me know with all the red. And I kind of scrapped that one. I don't know if I'll bring it back out. I might. But I moved on, and I think the stuff I've done now has been better. But so far, there hasn't been a female lead protagonist. The new series has several girls in it, very powerful in the story. But they aren't necessarily the leader of the group. But I try and focus on all of them at times.
So what kind of stories are you writing now?
Kids fantasy in general, but that covers a gamut. The one Town Magician series is very fantasy, magic. I wrote it to try and get into a Harry Potter festival and have a table. But then in the new series I have, The Oddish Questers, is a sibling investigative team that looks for Bigfoot, Mothman, things like that.
I love it. I'm a cryptid fan.
Yeah, so it's still fantasy, you know. And then I've got another series that's been pushed back a little bit, where it's kind of an alternate history in the world, and it's a spy type thing, kids. But think like Dick Tracy with kids in an academy. But that I'm going to be bringing out. I've got several short stories. I haven't known what to do with them. So I'm bringing those out as mini reads for reluctant readers. Smaller books, not as many pages. So the kids...
Still a lot of interesting action to keep them involved.
The whole intent of the thing was I want to get practice writing, but I'm not sure how to put together a complete story. But I can do a really good action scene. So let me do an action scene that's just one story, and kids would hopefully read it and enjoy it. And I ended up with several short stories that way with these same characters. So I'm going to be bringing those out as a small mini read series.
Is that something that you can relate to? Were you ever a reluctant reader yourself?
Absolutely not. No. I was reading Hardy Boy in kindergarten.
Oh.
Very early, big reader. My mother got me a box set of books for every year for Christmas. Wow. I never got chapter books. You never got... C.S. Lewis, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe book set was one of the first ones. And the year after that was Stephen King when I was 9.
Oh my gosh.
So, and one of my best friends, we do a horror podcast. We met each other in 4th grade because we were the only 2 kids reading Stephen King.
So you're just passionate about telling stories.
Yes, yes.
That's great. So if folks are interested in finding your books, where can they find you?
Everywhere. There's more and more everywhere. My website is sa-schneider. It's SCHNEIDER.com. And I've got links to all the different stores, and I'm putting more of the stories up, different stores. Amazon, obviously, we're all there. Easiest place, but I also try and get other places. And up by where I live, Portage County, I've got a bookstore and a Gray Mart convenience store. Other places around the area let us put our books in, getting them into several libraries. And so I'm in Libby Overdrive and all that. So go to your library, request it. They can get it if you really want it. You know, I'm happy with somebody to get it from the library. Don't have to spend the money and get it from me. I'd love to have my book everywhere in Ohio.
Fantastic.
And beyond.
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you.
Welcome to Gina. Your pen name is G.E. Stroud.
Correct.
Great. And this is your first time at our author festival, I think?
Yes, first time.
It's great.
It's really nice. It's a beautiful library.
Thank you. We love it here. So you write in verse.
Yes.
And is it actually like Bible verses in verse, or?
It's sometimes it's a retelling of the Bible verses themselves, or maybe it's just the lesson that I got from reading the verses. Basically, I just took a Bible and divided it into 365 sections and wrote something in rhyme on each one.
Okay.
And it's intended to be just read like you would read anything, but it is formatted like poetry.
Okay. So that makes it kind of easier to connect to.
Yes, I think so too. And it's also, I used to format a couplet structure to where one line has 9 syllables to the words and the next line has 10. And it has that same flow throughout the entire series of Reflections in Rhyme.
So Reflections in Rhyme, and there are, is it 6 volumes, 5?
Well, there's one big volume that has everything from Genesis to Revelation in it in a hardback version. And then I have it broken down into types of books that are in the Bible in a 5-count series. So where one book has maybe just the prophets in it, and another book has Psalms and Proverbs, another book has the history books. So it's just broken down into 5 volumes. And then I also took what I did in Psalms and made it into a little devotional for someone to do their own reflecting on Scripture or maybe keep a prayer journal.
So what inspired you to do that?
Well, every now and then I would read through the Bible in a year. That would be my goal. And I would always write something, maybe a word, maybe a sentence. Well, this year that I started this project, it was going to be my personal devotional. I was going to read the section and just write a little thing in rhyme on it. 4 little line ditty, or maybe, a little bit longer, but then it ended up being almost 900 pages in the end. So God I feel like he took it over and ran with it. And once I started letting people read it, they're like, you should publish them. So I'm kind of an author by accident, or maybe divine inspiration, or I don't know, but I never intended to be doing what I'm doing now with this. So
I love that, author by accident. That's fantastic. So you had folks around you who encouraged you to publish it.
Yeah, friends and family, especially my Christian friends, are like, "This is really good. You should publish." I'm like, "It's just for me. It's for maybe for grandchildren to give them a love for Scripture." But it kind of grew and grew.
Do you find that all ages can relate to how it's written?
I think middle school to high school, some people tell me, "You got a great vocabulary." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't intend it because I'm a high school teacher by trade. And so I had it in mind for, high school students and upwards. But people are like, "That's a pretty high vocabulary level." I'm like, "Well, not all the way through, maybe some." But so hopefully someone, even if you were to read some stories for little ones, if they were familiar with this story, they might understand it.
So with writing, you said you kind of have always journaled or as you've gone through the Bible? Or written?
Yeah, I've written something, but maybe it was a word that really stuck out to me or just a sentence about it all. But one year I did a poetry project with my classes and we put it into a book. And then a couple of years later, I'm like, I think I'll write a poem when I read through the Bible this time around. So it was just inspired by what I had done in the classroom.
So you were kind of just casual teaching writing.
Yes.
Before you did the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a little bit.
And then author by accident.
Author by accident, definitely. Or inspiration, one of the two or both.
Sure. So you put in your bio that you've always been an avid reader.
I have been. All my life, ever since I was little. In middle school, I think I read a whole wall in the library before I got out of that building. So it's always read everything. I love historical things. But since I've started this, the only book I really want to read anymore is the Bible. Mm-hmm. It's just, if I have spare time, which I don't have a lot of since I do these book shows and I still work. And so it's like the only book I'm really interested in is the Holy Word. And because every time I go into it, I'm like, oh, I don't remember doing that. And I wrote something about that. I still don't remember that part of the Scripture. So it's a very interesting book.
You said you enjoy traveling and crafting. Do you get to do much of that in between your teaching and writing?
Yes, I do. Because if I'm done with the computer work or I like to stay busy with my hands. And so I make beaded things. So part of my other vendor shows that I do, I sell beaded crosses like bracelets or necklaces.
Is it like the one you're wearing?
Well, this necklace actually inspired my beaded cross work. And so this I got on a pilgrimage that I took in 2022. I went through the Holy Land and found this on one of my travels. I love seeing cathedrals, anything to do with religion or a religious site or a church or cathedral. I'm always there.
Okay. So do you have a website where folks could find your books?
Yes, I do. It's www.reflectionsinrhyme.com.
Reflections in Rhyme. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Now I have Jane Ann Terzillo. Yay. Yes. I'm so excited when I say authors' names right. You haven't been in Northeast Ohio your whole life.
Pretty much your whole life. I was born in Michigan, and we came to Ohio when I was 5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you've been in Northeast Ohio for a long time.
Yes.
And you have an interest in a particular part of history of Northeast Ohio.
Crime.
In the crime, yeah. I read through your bio a little bit, and I thought it was so interesting that you helped run a newspaper.
Yes.
For many years.
Yes, it was the West Side Leader. Well, actually, we started out on a very small newspaper. It was the Fair Lawn Village Views. It's about a readership of maybe 1,200.
Okay.
And then a bunch of us broke away and started the West Side Leader. And I think it might be the largest, if not one of the largest, weekly newspapers in the state.
Okay.
And I did all the police and fire news for that.
You did that.
Yeah.
And did you have an interest in true crime when you started that, or did it grow out of doing the police and fire news?
Well, no, I was getting a degree in criminal justice at the time that the head of the criminal justice department read an article that I had written in a newspaper in New Orleans.
Oh.
And he wanted me to send my resume into the smaller newspaper, because they were looking for a reporter.
Okay.
And however, I didn't get to do the police news right away. Instead, they had me doing what we called the Kitty Corps, which is, going into schools and, and the nursing home beat. But then the lady that was doing the police news passed away, and so I said, I'm next, and so
Pick me.
Yeah.
Great. So you found your way into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Did that translate from writing to newspaper to writing books for
yes,
you?
yeah, yes, definitely. It was a number of years.
Okay.
I also did a lot of freelance writing. I did, magazine articles and things like that.
As far as your books go, do you do your own research? Do you have a process for that, or how do you go about
Well,
it?
every case is different, and yes, I do all my own research. Although if it's something that I need from, across the country, I will call, the library, and if the library can't do the research and send it to me, they may have someone who does that.
Sure.
And but I've only had to do that like a couple of times. I really enjoy the research.
Right. Do you gravitate towards cases that are lesser known? Or
Try to,
people
yes.
that are lesser
Yeah,
known?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, try to.
So Ohio Scoundrels is your next book. Do you
Right.
have a release date for that one?
Yes, September 15th.
Okay, of this year, 2026?
Yes.
Great. Can you share a little bit about what that one's about?
Well, it's called Ohio Scoundrels, and they put a tagline on it: murderers, thieves, and reprobates.
Oh, wow.
But there's a John Dillinger is in there. Let's see who else that would be anybody known. I can't think of anybody else that would be known. There's one man in there from Akron. His name was Edward Wayne Edwards, and you name the crime and he did it.
Wow.
And he did it across the United States. Okay. But he was from Akron and lived in Cuyahoga Falls. Yeah.
So true crime is kind of a heavy subject, especially when you have unsolved cases. What is kind of your thought process on sharing these stories, your motivation?
Well, a couple have been solved because of it.
Because of research?
Yes,
that you've done?
yes. Okay. I don't know. I just, I guess it's just, I want it to get out there because the police and the detectives, they really do such good work and they solve, a lot of these cases. And some of them, now, particularly with DNA and all the different ways that they have of, solving cases, that's why I've kind of concentrated on unsolveds. Is, if they're out there, people read them and talk about them. And so.
And then it can lead to solving.
Yeah. But that, it has to be a case that interests me. That,
sure.
That I'm interested in.
Okay. So I know we have several of your books here at our library. If folks were interested in finding one of your books, where could they go?
Well, they're in most bookstores. Most of the libraries around here, Akron Summit County Library has them, and Amazon.
I've heard that a lot today.
Yes, yes. So yeah, and in the drugstores, and I think Giant Eagle has them on those rounders, Sure. So yeah.
They're not like super thick books, but they're very well thought out.
Yeah, they have to be only 35,000 words. There's a lot of pictures in them.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Okay, well, thank you.
Now I am talking with Lori Wilkerson. Lori is a regular library patron. We see you in here all the time. You lived in Wayne County for almost 30 years?
28 years.
Okay, very good. It's a pretty place to live.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a lot better than Nebraska where I grew up.
Oh, is it? So you're not a native. I'm not a native.
Not a native
either.
to Ohio, but love Ohio.
So Nebraska, very flat as well.
Where I grew up, a little knolly. But then not too far was the Sandhills. That's interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
So you moved out this way. Is this where your husband's from?
No. We moved here for a position, a job for my husband.
Okay.
Once we left the mission field. So.
You have written one book. Are you working on a second?
I am. And the lady that I'm sitting to next to me today has been very encouraging because she's encouraging me to do it.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So yes, I'm thinking about doing a different one. Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about your first book?
My first book I wrote after my husband was killed in an airplane crash because I felt like a lot of people didn't know who he was. And I didn't want people to just say, the other guy in the airplane. So I wanted to write a book about him at first in our lives, and then I wanted to let people understand a little bit about grief, because none of us really know unless we're in it. Sure. And also just how God remained faithful. And it was very healing for me in the process of my grief. Yeah. So,
did you self-publish it, or did you go through a publisher?
I went through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay, sure. All right. I know that locally people have read, and we have your book in our collection even here. So you kind of got to share with people your story in that way.
Yeah. I have. And it's been very encouraging, because I'd never written a book before, but it was encouraging to hear back from people how it has encouraged them in their grief journeys.
So is your second book going to be similar to that, or can you give us a little?
Yeah. Actually, in the book, there are poems. And I think in that process of going through grief, I wrote a lot of poems and dated them. So now these poems seem to have ministered to a lot of other widows. And I've thought of putting together a book that would have the poems, but then also, since I've dated them, I can say what's going on at that time to kind of help people go through the process of grief. And then also maybe a Psalms from the scripture that would go with that to just encourage people.
Since you're in the library a lot, I know you're a reader. Have you been a lifelong reader?
Yes, yes. Came from a large family, and books were, very important part of growing up. Of course, you live 14 miles away from everything.
You have to,
so, you do stuff like that. We lived on a farm, but it was good to be able to relax and have a book.
That's great. And did you do any writing before you wrote your first book?
No, I had not. I blame my youngest son for writing the book.
I was going to say, was he keeping you too busy to write?
No. When he was younger, he was in Young Authors and was very avid in that. Went to the Worcester College and different things with that. And I wanted to write a little bit about the accident and everything. And he was the one that encouraged me, Mom, every good book, you have to introduce the person and let them get to know the person so that they really get to the impact of the story. So
he encouraged you quite a lot. Yes. That's fantastic. All right. So we keep talking about this book. It's called Finding God's Goodness in the Challenges, Trials and Loss. That's the whole title.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm like, we're talking about it. And I was like, I don't think we actually said what your book was called. Is this something that people can find online if they wanted to buy it?
Yes. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
So
it's also at the
purchase
library
it there, and it's also at the library here, and the Worcester Library also has one.
Fantastic. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to talk with me a little bit today about your book and your writing. Thank you. Are you a cool kid?
Duh.
Obviously. You're going to tell us about all the cool stuff that cool kids do at the library.
Yeah. So the first thing that's going to be cool at the library is the Cookbook Club. And they are going to be focusing on Betty Crocker Found Recipes is the name of the book.
And that is on Monday, May 4th.
And that starts at 6 o'clock. So bring your best Betty Crocker Found recipe cooked, not just the recipe. Bring the food.
Preschool Play Lab will be back again in May on the 6th and the 20th. 1 to 4:30. That's for preschoolers and preschool adjacent children.
I think it starts at 1:30 though. If you come at 1, you said 1.
Oh, okay.
It's
you can come at 1 and hang out, and then it'll start at 1:30.
Yeah, but they might be bored by then. They're preschoolers.
It's true. Okay.
Coffee and Crafts is continuing in May. Is this the last one for this semester? So I go take the summer off.
Exactly.
And that is May 7th at 6 o'clock. And this time it's actually going to be at the YMCA, not here at the library, at the YMCA. And it's going to be Kindness Rocks. Are you painting pet rocks or?
We're painting rocks.
Okay.
In
the 70s, they had pet rocks.
Well, you can make it your pet if you want to, or you can put a kind message on it and share that with somebody.
Okay. Like you rock.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll have another round of teen book boxes. The registration is May 11th through the 23rd. That is for 6th to 12th graders. Tell me what you like to read. I'll pick out some library books for you and some treats.
May 12th, which is a Tuesday at 5:30, Bits and Bytes is going to be covering AI. Boo. Jenny is not a fan of AI.
Jesse, who we collaborate with from the Massillon Public Library, presented some AI information to our staff, and we thought it was so great that we should share it with everyone else.
I think it is important to be educated on it, for sure.
Yep. So if you have questions about AI, I bet you Jesse can help you answer them.
I agree.
On May
He's
12th
very
at
knowledgeable.
5:30.
He's knowledgeable with real intelligence, not artificial.
It's true. His intelligence is real.
Okay.
Reading Under the Lights on Thursday, May 14th. So this is a great program for families, kindergarten through 4th grade. If you've got somebody older, families can register together. Go to that. It is at the high school stadium at 6 p.m. There is a rain location, so if it rains, it'll just get moved into the gym. But lots of fun reading-related activities with some different groups from around town. And Diego Fuego, the firefighting dragon, will be read by Allison at Reading Under the Lights.
And it is the cutest book.
It's adorable.
So cute. The seed exchange is continuing on through the end of May.
Correct.
The plant exchange, where you actually bring a plant that started as a seed but is now a plant. Bring that 10:30 on Saturday, May 16th.
It's from like 10:30 to noon, and you can
science
in front of the library. You can drop off plants. You can take a plant home.
Exchange
if there's
them.
That's how exchanges work. Science. The teens. If you are interested in doing some crafts and having some snacks, the Teen Craft Cafe will be on Tuesday the 19th at 4 p.m. We're just going to hang out, make cool stuff, and have some treats.
That sounds like a perfect afternoon to me.
Doesn't it?
The Youth Book Club is at 4 o'clock on Thursday, May 21st. And they are actually recommending 2 books. You can read one or the other, or you can read both. And this is for grades 4 through 6. The books are Dragonborn by Strom Murray.
Struan or Strawn?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Last name's Murray, though.
Yes.
Dragonborn. Okay. Or Ms. Penny Pickle's Puzzle Quest by Chris Grabenstein.
You can get a copy of either of those books at the children's desk, and then you don't have to worry about who the author was.
Just say Youth Book Club, and they will give you the correct books.
Great, yeah. We will be closed for Memorial Day on Monday, the 25th. And then that following Saturday is our summer reading kickoff.
Wow. May 30th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We're here already.
And
That's
then
crazy.
it's summertime.
Yeah. Do you know what the theme is for summer reading this year?
The theme this summer is Unearth a Story.
Unearth a Story.
So expect to see dinosaurs and dirt and things like that.
Excavation equipment. It'll be awesome.
It'll be great.
All right. May is going to be full and fun, just like all things at the library. So you all need to come and do them. You won't regret it. We promise.
Yeah. We'll see you at the library soon.